So almost every single second-round draft pick is yet to sign their rookie deals, and if they don't, none of these guys are even allowed to participate at training camp. Well, that could lead to problems in some capacity for nearly every team around the league, and the Saints are kind of the ones to blame for this at the moment. So I'll break down what the heck is going on with that crazy situation, talk about several massive contract extensions that happened this week, Scary Terry threatening a training camp holdout of his own, and more right after. Alright, first up, the New York Jets have gone back-to-back days handing out massive contracts to their star players. Yesterday, they agreed on a 4-year, $130 million deal with wide receiver Garrett Wilson, and then today, they reached a 4-year, $120.4 million extension with cornerback Sauce Gardner. That barely makes him the highest paid corner in NFL history, as he edged out Texans corner Derek Stingley Jr. by $0.1 million. So $30.1 million APY for Sauce versus $30 million flat APY for Stingley Jr. Still, well-deserved, and Sauce gets to add that to his impressive resume that includes Defensive Rookie of the Year, 2 Pro Bowls, and 2 first-team All-Pro selections. So those are 2 big old deals getting done here for the Jets ahead of training camp, as both players are now under contract with the team through the 2030 season. It's pretty historic, too, as both Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner were both first-round picks in the 2022 draft, and prior to these deals, the Jets had never given an extension to a first-rounder after just 3 seasons. But these guys are pillar of their team, and they know that, and it's smart to lock up core pieces like this sooner rather than later because, as we all know, the market will only continue to rise every year. I mean, unless a global pandemic hits, but that's probably, hopefully, not going to happen again for a while. Another player that reached a massive payday today was the Chiefs' right guard, Trey Smith. He was the lone remaining player on the franchise tag, and just 2 hours prior to the July 15th, 3 p.m. Central deadline today, Trey and KC reached an agreement on a 4-year, $94 million deal that includes $70 million in guarantees. That's not only the highest guarantees given to a guard in NFL history, but Trey Smith is also the highest paid guard in NFL history with an average of $23.5 million per year. They basically took his franchise tag amount, multiplied that by 4, but guaranteed 3 of those years. That's a pretty historic contract, with mixed opinions from Chiefs Kingdom on that, given how much they just dished out for a guard. I talked about this much more in detail on a live stream today on my main channel, How About Those Chiefs, if you were curious to know why it made sense for the Chiefs to get this done. The TLDR, if you protect Patrick Mahomes, you win Super Bowls. It's that simple. Anyway, that leads us to a player who has not gotten an extension yet and is pretty upset about it too. That's wide receiver Terry McLaurin. He expressed his frustration with the media today when speaking publicly about his contract negotiations with the Washington Commanders. Scary Terry was shooting a commercial for a local car dealership in the area and took some questions from the media afterwards. Well, when asked about how he's feeling about the fact that an extension still hasn't gotten done, here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I've been pretty frustrated, I'm not gonna lie. I want to put myself in a position where I'm valued, and, unfortunately that hasn't transpired the way I wanted to, so.
Well, the reason he's not happy is because he wants an extension before heading into the final year of his deal. McLaurin missed both OTAs and minicamp, and with training camp starting next week, he was hoping to have this resolved by now, or at least the start of camp. Terry said he hasn't heard from the Commanders on an extension in over a month, and when asked if he planned on actually showing up to training camp, he said that he hadn't decided yet, but without any progressive discussions, he doesn't see how he steps on that field. So this will definitely be a situation worth monitoring, especially as we get closer to next Tuesday, which is when veterans report to Commanders training camp. I also wonder if Garrett Wilson's new contract will have any part to play in Scary Terry's negotiations. Wilson became the 5th highest paid receiver in the league with that contract that I mentioned earlier, as he's making $32.5 million per year. Meanwhile, Spotrac's initial contract projection for Terry was 3 years, $93 million, so a little over $31 million per year, which would put him behind Garrett Wilson and A.J. Brown as the 7th highest paid in the league. McLaurin is coming off of a year in which he had 82 catches for almost 1,100 yards and a career-high 13 touchdowns, so he rightfully wants to get paid. The problem is Terry is set to turn 30 in September, and the only receiver that's in the top 15 highest paid while also being over the age of 30 is Tyreek Hill, and we just saw him have his least productive season since 2019 when he was on IR for 4 games. Now, there were some things that went into that, like a wrist injury and then Tua missing a chunk of time, but still, it wouldn't surprise me if Washington was looking at that situation and feeling a bit hesitant because of it. That's why these negotiations can drag on for quite some time. Each side is trying to do what's best for them, and while I do think they should pay Terry with Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract especially, you can at least see it from the Commander's side a little bit as well given his age. If I had to guess, I would assume some sort of a deal does eventually get done before the season, whether that's before training camp or not, but let me know in the comments below what you think will end up happening. Another team going through it right now is the Los Angeles Chargers. I talked in yesterday's video about how their second-round pick, wide receiver Trey Harris, is officially holding out of training camp as he's after more guarantees in his rookie contract. While he's far from the only one, in total there's 30 second-round picks that are still unsigned. What's interesting about that is if a rookie is not under contract, then he actually cannot participate in training camp until his deal is signed. That's different from OTAs and minicamp where they are allowed to participate without a contract. Former NFL agent Joel Corey reported that the reason the second-round signings have come to a screeching halt right now is because Tyler Shough, who was taken 40th overall, is insisting on a fully guaranteed contract as he's expecting to be the starting quarterback for the Saints. Because of that, picks 35 through 39 are eagerly waiting to see what comes of his contract, because if he gets fully guaranteed money, then they have ammo to take back to their teams and go, hey, this guy was drafted later than me, and he just got a fully guaranteed contract, so where's mine? New Orleans has their training camp starting up next week, and if Shough still isn't signed by then, it could get pretty ugly around the league. Anyway, that's a little bit more insight into the whole situation, but I want to get back to the Chargers for a moment here. They're a little thin at wide receiver right now because on top of Trey Harris holding out, they added 5 players to the physically unable to perform list, so the PUP list, with the most notable being wide receiver Mike Williams. His injury wasn't specified at the time, but Adam Schefter did note that a player can come off the PUP list at any time during training camp. It's not until the start of the regular season. If you're on the PUP list, you have to miss at least 4 games. But when it comes to training camp, they can come back at any time. Anyway, at this point in the offseason, it's used more as a roster management tool than anything else. However, it's still worth keeping eyes on because Williams is getting up there in age for a receiver. He's turning 31 in October, and the last time we saw him in a Chargers uniform was when he tore his ACL early in the 2023 season. From there, he signed with the Jets last offseason, starting training camp on the PUP list as well, I might add, but then was traded to the Steelers in the middle of the year. Now he's back in LA on a 1-year deal, hoping to carve out a role in a receiving room that features Ladd McConkey, their wide receiver 1, Quentin Johnston, and Trey Harris. Well, believe it or not, the injuries don't stop there for them because their running back Najee Harris is recovering from a firework accident that caused an injury to his eye around the 4th of July. His agent Doug Hendrickson put out a statement reading, Najee Harris was present at a 4th of July event where a fireworks mishap resulted in injuries to several attendees. Najee sustained a superficial eye injury during the incident, but is fully expected to be ready for the upcoming NFL season. It's worth noting, though, that there were injuries worse than this. So Najee had the superficial eye injury, but several others were injured, including one person who was actually hospitalized after losing fingers in the accident. And that's exactly what happened to Jason Pierre-Paul 10 years ago in July of 2015. He lost 2.5 fingers and played the rest of his career looking like Slam Fist from Small Soldiers. Anyway, thankfully, according to this latest update from Ian Rappaport, it appears that Najee Harris should be just fine. In an appearance on NFL Network yesterday, Rappaport said Najee is not expected to miss significant time. He's not expected to miss any games or anything like that, but he likely misses limited time to begin training camp. Well, that's good news for Harris and the Chargers offense, but in the meantime, it also means that first-round pick Omarion Hampton will be taking the bulk of the carries at camp for now. Harris is just on a 1-year deal, and Hampton has been viewed as the future of the Chargers backfield since the day they drafted him, but now this setback for Najee is giving him, talking about Omarion Hampton, an opportunity to try and claim the lead role sooner than any of us thought. I'll temper expectations on that happening, though, because Najee has had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and regardless of who gets the starting role, Harbaugh's going to love both of those backs at his disposal in that run-first offense. Anyway, make sure to let me know your thoughts on the massive paydays from today, as well as your thoughts on injuries already starting to pile up a bit here early on for the Chargers, and with that, I'll see y'all next time.